and before we get to the people that we think are going to get cut,
Yeah.
Other guys that didn't make the team, Tim Ream, who has been playing pretty regularly, and Lehigh, who's been playing pretty regularly at the end of the season as well. There are two guys that a lot of people said, well, what the hell? It's not like we're loaded at left back. We could use Lehigh as a cushion there.
Yeah. And Lehigh, we'll get to Lehigh in a second, but as far as Ream's concerned, Klinsmann came out, flat out said, hey, I'm giving him a rest. Even Ream has come on and said, hey, me and JK have been talking quite regularly, and he's going to give me a little bit of a break from soccer, maybe an extended honeymoon, seeing how he never really got to take his because he immediately went over to England after his wedding. So I think not overly concerned with Ream. He'll come back in. It's not like these upcoming games are massive. I mean, the qualifiers are massive to win, but I think we can do it without Ream, to tell you the truth.
I agree with you. We don't need Ream when you have Boca, Jeff Cameron,
Goodson,
Gooch. Parkers can play there if he needs to. We're fine.
Even Morales can fit in as a center back if worse comes to worse.
Absolutely.
But yeah, I agree with you on Lehigh. This is a question mark, and nobody's even nobody in the press has really talked about this outside of bloggers and posters.
Right.
This is the major snub. Here's a guy who's been playing nonstop for the last 2 months since he became healthy again.
Right.
And he's been performing pretty well. And given our lack of depth at left back, he seems to be an obvious option. My only take on this is that given the fact that he just recently came back from an injury and he's having such a great year with Aston Villa for those last 2 months, and the fact that Aston Villa is going to have a new manager, that maybe he's looking at it saying, hey, by the time preseason starts, I would like it if Lehigh was, nice and healthy and nice and rested. And that way, whenever preseason comes around, he can start impressing the new manager. Because, he had a bit of a step there to get up into that once he recovered from the injury.
Yeah.
He had to prove himself that he was, better than the other options. And obviously he did. He kept playing for the last 2 months of the season.
Right.
But he's got a new manager to impress, a manager that's probably going to come in and my guess would be bring in a couple other options or maybe stick with the seasoned pros, even though that hasn't worked in the past. And that's my only take on it. There's no way unless there's another reason why. Maybe he has a nagging injury or something. I don't know that they haven't announced. But he's better than any of the other options that left back outside of Johnson.
Now, let me be clear about this. Jurgen Klinsmann said, this is serious now. This is my team. This is my team through the qualifiers. But let's not overstate that because, let's be honest, if he needs to make some adjustments, he will. I don't care what he said about this is my team. He's going to make some adjustments as things move forward here.
Perhaps what he meant there is that this is his team through the first 2 games of qualifiers. Because, in all honesty, he probably could have made some adjustments prior to the qualifying games.
Yeah.
Maybe if that squad against Canada, Brazil, and Scotland just wasn't working, he could have made some changes, but he flat out said, hey, this is my team through qualifiers. This is my A team.
Yeah.
And I fully suspect, looking at this roster, I really hope he's going to make changes throughout it.
Yeah, I think that has to happen. But, the good news is I was playing FIFA 07 the other night. Believe that. Yeah, we were going back to the classics. And we played an international game as the United States. And I looked at that lineup and I said, are you serious? This was our 07 team? No offense to anybody who played on that particular squad, but looking at this squad, a lot more promise here. Some great players. There's no doubt about it. So I'm not ultimately seriously worried or concerned. It's just that, in many ways, there's just so many question marks about, okay, with this particular group of players, what formation do you use? How do you use them? And who's playing out on left? Because that's the thing. Not a whole lot of guys able to play out left.
And quite frankly, if you look at this roster, you got your core team plus, the potential just off the bench guys, or even secondary in depth. We have something like 7 center midfielders.
Yeah.
Several of them have been regulars.
Yeah.
You have some really key players on the squad. As you say, there are just some major question marks. Mm-hmm. Who's going to be left mid? Who's going to be left back?
Right.
those are some thin positions right now, and I guess you can rotate around. But even if you do rotate around and put Donovan out there, you're thinning out the right midfield position.
Yeah, because that's thin as well. If you're going to play the sort of formation he wants to play, Klinsmann, that is. As for your cuts, I had some trouble coming up with 4. I came up with Joe Corona, Graham Zusi, and Juan Agudelo. To me, those are easy for me. If they end up not being those guys, I would be really surprised. But you had an additional one, and I think that was what, Chris Wondolowski?
Well, he is part of my list. Not because he doesn't deserve a spot on the team. God knows he does deserve it. He's doing extremely well this season. He had a hell of a last couple seasons, actually. If anybody deserves it on the striker spot, he's one of them. However, I don't see him starting in a major game.
I don't either.
I just don't see it happening.
I don't see him coming off the bench when you've got Gomez either. I don't know.
Exactly. And the thing is that you got to look at it from this standpoint. If Klinsmann does keep an MLS player, you're looking at roughly about 2 or 3 games that he's going to miss for his club, and the club's going to have to replace him. And that's not really necessarily Klinsmann's issue. He's supposed to call up the best of the best. That's fine. However, if you're gonna keep Wondolowski on the roster, and then he rides Pine for that entire time, he might see like some sub minutes here and there, sort of thing.
Mm-hmm.
My question is, does he really do that? Does he really keep the MLS players that might not even see playing time?
Graham Zusi, Wondolowski.
I definitely see Zusi and Agudelo out of there. Those are 2 of my guarantees. My other MLS options this is one way of thinking, and I have another list completely. But Wondolowski, again, he's behind. Josie and Dempsey are going to start in any major game. Then the question is, would you start Hercules Gomez, or would you play Wondolowski
off the bench?
If you really think about it, they're pretty much very similar type players.
Right, they're poachers.
Exactly. So I think Wondolowski might get sent back to San Jose. And then the other option is, as far as MLS players are concerned, was Cameron. And here's a player that I really want to see integrated in and get some playing time. And this would be a great time to do it, especially given our circumstances. We've got 3 friendlies and then, relatively speaking, 2 weak qualifiers. This is the time you really want to start giving him some playing time.
Yeah.
But again, he's going to miss a handful of a couple games with Houston. And then I guess the big question is, you have Gooch, you have Boca, you have Goodson, and then again you have Parkhurst who can fill in.
Well,
and you've got it fills in from there on out.
I can understand that. The thing about Jeff Cameron, he's so diverse. He can play so many different positions. It would be nice to just kind of keep him in your back pocket if you absolutely need him.
Because a lot of players like that, though, is the problem.
That's true. But, as far as Cameron goes, I just like Cameron. I think he's just got a great nose for the game, and I think he could be playing.
He stays, to tell you the truth. I'm not saying anything about it. I'm just saying that this is an idea that he might release for MLS players.
No, I agree. But one of my ideas is that instead of releasing Cameron, you just go with 2 goalkeepers, Guzan and Howard, and because we've done it before, and Raimondo gets
a shot.
The Axe, yeah.
Maybe against Scotland as a second half sub, but still, again, like you're saying, what are the odds that we use all 3 goalkeepers this game?
There's no odd. That's the thing. You cut them now. Maybe you take them with you again during the qualifiers after you decided who to axe from the player field. But there's no need for the friendlies to take Howard, Guzan, and Raimondo. I don't know.
Well, in all honesty, I don't see the need for having 7 to 8 different center midfielders to be in the lineup either.
I don't either.
Yeah. You have Beckerman, you have Bradley, you have Corona, who plays more of an attacking mid-style, although he could play out on the wing.
On the wing, yeah.
You have Jones, Torres, Williams, Zusi, who can play out on the wings, but he's more of a center midfield. And you even have Dempsey, who's most likely going to take one of those center positions.
Yeah, exactly. The thing is, we do have an abundant amount of center midfielders. Maybe one of them has to go. But if I had my druthers, I'd still say the guys going are Zusi, Agudelo, Corona, and I'm still flip-flopping between Raimondo and Wondolowski on this. I think you're right.
we talked about the omissions, but here's an interesting snub. I mean, you get a player like Boyd that's called up. Of course, he's been called up against Italy, and he's been with U23s. But you have a player like Andrew Wooten, who's 1 year older than Boyd, probably not even a full year, just maybe a handful of months or whatever. And he actually has a contract. He's played the last handful of games for his club. Full first team time.
Yeah. It is.
He even has, I believe, he even got a goal and an assist in that time frame. And you have Boyd, who put up similar numbers to Andrew Wooten with their respective reserves, but he hasn't gotten a sniff of the first team. And in all honesty, it looks like he's going to be transferred this summer.
Yeah, he's going to leave Dortmund.
So it's. It's another snub option there.
But Boyd is pretty highly touted. I mean, there's no doubt about it.
Goes for the goal. There's no doubt about it. And he's a physical player. He has a lot of upside. He really does.
Yeah. So I mean, that's got to be a hard decision. But if I am Klinsmann,
drop Agudelo.
Why is Agudelo there? I don't care how high his mohawk gets. Yeah.
Even if you have to cut one of the Boyd or Wooten, it's still more of an obvious option.
Frankly, Juan Agudelo does not belong in this 27. Hell, he doesn't even belong in the top 30 in my book. 40, 50 maybe. I'm serious. I don't know why he's there.
Hopefully finds his form to achieve this. But
what form?
I agree with you. He doesn't deserve to be on this roster.
What form? I mean, that's the question. He hasn't had form for a long time. He hasn't been playing enough to even gain form.
Well, he's been injured for a while, but yes, once he recovered and he finally got playing time at New York, I agree.
Even before he was injured, nothing great was happening. I'm just saying,
he looked good with the U23s for that whole 45 minutes.
Well, exactly. Klinsmann has his standards, and as far as I'm concerned, there's a little bit. He's contradicting himself in many ways by having Juan on this team and not having Breck Shea. If you're going to give one guy a pass, then you got to give another guy a pass too. All right, there about starting lineups generally through the qualifiers and through
disregarding when everybody is showing up.
Exactly, because we can't do that. There are just 5 games coming up. I'm not going to do every lineup for all 5 games. We'd be here all night. But generally, what I'd like to see is Altidore up top with Dempsey right behind. And then on the wings, I don't think we have any choice right now but to go with Donovan and Williams, because I just think I know J.K. enough to know he's going to play Williams out there. And then behind Dempsey in the CM roles, you have Jones and Bradley. And then out left, I believe you're going to have Fabian Johnson, and on the right, Cherundolo. I think those are your real starters. If that's what I'm saying here. And then
if the qualifier was tomorrow. Yes. Well, who did you have for center mid again?
Bocanegra. And,
no, center mid.
Oh, center midfield, Jermaine Jones and Michael Bradley.
Okay. Yeah, I agree with 100%. Given the roster, that's if you played the 4-4-2, that's exactly what we'd see in a qualifying match.
Well, this is my 4-5-1.
Okay, well,
with Dempsey,
it's splitting hairs when you have Dempsey up there.
Right, exactly.
But practically a 4-4-2.
It is practically a 4-4-2. You're absolutely right, and we've had this discussion so many times. You're so right, because Dempsey will often.
How about a 4-4-1-1? If you really want to say something like that.
Yeah, that works for me. I would expect. Yeah, I would expect some experimentation versus Scotland. Very little experimentation versus Brazil. I think what you're going to see, the starting lineup versus Brazil. Yeah, I think the starting lineup versus Brazil is really a good sniff at what the starting lineup will be in the qualifiers.
Yep, I agree.
And then Canada, again, I think he'll mess around some more. But, I think Brazil is going to give us a good read on who he really sees as his top team. And then we'll know by the first qualifier exactly who's made the grade. All right, until the next time on the Straight Red Card, for Brett and Derek, good night.